Imagine being a shepherd in the desert, watching a glowing object descend from the sky, spinning, roaring like water, surrounded by fire. You wouldn't call it a drone or a spacecraft. You'd call it an angel. The visions in the Bible are strange. Wheels within wheels, wings covered in eyes, beings of fire, light, and thunder. Modern culture calls them biblically accurate angels, like that somehow explains them. But what if those ancient witnesses weren't describing divine messengers? What if they were just describing something they couldn't understand? A machine? A weapon? A vehicle? And that's where this story begins. If you like biblical mysteries, ancient symbolism, and forbidden interpretations, subscribe, because what they saw might not be what we think. In Ezekiel 1 verses 4 to 28, we get one of the most vivid and bizarre visions in the Bible. He sees a whirlwind, a cloud, a fire that flashes continuously. Inside, 4 creatures emerge. Each has 4 faces, 4 wings, and the feet of a calf. And beside each a wheel, but not an ordinary wheel. A wheel within a wheel, moving in any direction without turning, covered in eyes. To a modern observer, this sounds less like divine metaphor and more like an object, a mechanism. How do you describe something you've never seen before? You compare it to what you know. Ezekiel didn't have words for gyroscopes, propulsion systems, or energy fields. He had wheels, eyes, and fire. It's like trying to describe a smartphone in the 12th century. You'd say it's a glowing stone that lets you see distant faces or hear voices from thin air. It's not wrong, it's limited. The same thing happens in Ezekiel's vision. What if the eyes weren't actual eyeballs but glowing orbs? Sensors? Multidirectional lenses? What if the wheel within a wheel described a rotating propulsion system, similar to modern V/STOL aircraft rotors or gyroscopic stabilizers? The way we describe a UFO today, as a disc, a light, a spinning craft, echoes the same impulse, making sense of the unknown with limited vocabulary. Biblically accurate angels aren't humanoid figures with halos. They're often described as chaotic, overwhelming, and even terrifying. The seraphim have 6 wings. The Ophanim are wheels full of eyes. The cherubim have 4 faces, of a man, lion, ox, and eagle. In ancient Hebrew, face and presence are closely linked. Could 4 faces mean multidirectional presence? A being that could look and move in any direction? Why would divine beings need so many eyes? Why would they spin? Why surround themselves with fire? What if the eyes weren't eyes at all, but lights, sensors, or cameras? What if the wings weren't literal, but meant movement, rotation, or stabilization? What if the fire and smoke weren't metaphysical, but signs, propulsion, energy output, or heat radiation? Consider modern fighter jets during night drills. They flash, emit thunder, radiate light, and are encased in heat shimmer. To someone unfamiliar, it's a flying creature fire. Even the idea of flaming swords guarding Eden could resemble some form of plasma-based barrier or defensive tech, rendered in the only way an ancient mind could grasp: fire and blade. To someone from the Bronze Age, a rotating field of noise, wind, and glowing orbs would seem supernatural. But in modern terms, it could describe an engine, a reactor, a machine. In several texts, angels and divine presences speak with voices like rushing water, like thunder, or like the roar of many nations. That's not poetic. That's acoustic trauma. High-volume resonance, sonic disturbance, echo chamber vibration. These are descriptions of powerful energy missions. Ezekiel hears the beings move, and the sound fills the air. Revelation describes voices like trumpets and drums. Daniel falls to the ground at the voice of the figure in white linen. The prophet Elijah hears a still small voice, but others describe the presence of God as a quake, a storm of fire. Now compare that to a rocket launch, where the roar can be heard miles away, rattling bones and silencing everything else. Or a hypersonic jet passing overhead, sounding not like a voice, but like a tear in the sky. This isn't symbolic. It's sensory. It reads like someone trying to process the noise of an engine, the rush of wind, the shock wave of something beyond their world. Chapter 4. The problem with literalism. Taking these descriptions literally leads to confusion. People try to draw diagrams of creatures with too many eyes, too many wings, overlapping limbs and radiant fire. But the authors weren't drawing. They were witnessing. They were overwhelmed, terrified, trying to survive the moment and document it with the language they had. When a medieval monk sees a comet, he doesn't describe it as a celestial object. He draws it as a flaming dragon. When an indigenous Amazonian sees a helicopter for the first time, they may describe it as a flying spirit or a god. And so the description becomes metaphor, metaphor becomes doctrine, and doctrine becomes a meme. We end up with Bible-accurate angels as punchlines or idols. But these weren't punchlines. These were encounters. And maybe they weren't even divine. So what did they see? A flying throne? A chariot of fire? A sentient wheel? A burning tree that talks? Or were they witnessing something real, just not understandable? If today, a being made of light descended from the clouds, surrounded by rings and flame, will we call it an angel, or will we call it a craft? A drone? A probe? Maybe Ezekiel didn't see heaven. Maybe he saw technology. And maybe he wasn't the only one. Across the world, from the Vimanas of India to the fiery shields of Rome, civilizations describe aerial phenomena. Maybe it's not divine. Maybe it's mechanical. Maybe it's neither, but something else entirely. The question is not did they lie? The question is what were they trying to describe? Because the moment you stop looking for wings, you might start seeing the machinery behind the myth.